You know the vibes. We are back. Another episode of the Hoop Genius podcast sponsored by NBA 2K22. If you don't already have your copy, I don't know what you're doing. Make sure you go get your copy by hitting the link in our description to support the show. Also on that note, I want to thank everyone because the Twitter timeline has been blowing up with crazy love from all of you. There was a tweet asking for the best basketball podcast out there right now. And so many of you tagged us under that tweet. I just want to say love. I just want to say thank you. We appreciate you because you're rocking.
And we giving you love from the state sides too. We giving you love everywhere. Mo, it's been amazing to work and talk basketball, working with you. But the response from our fan base has been incredible.
It's not fan base, BJ. It's the family. This is the family.
It's the family.
These are all my cousins out there listening. Everyone who listens to shows love, you get the cosign from me.
Cousin Mo and Uncle BJ. How about that?
Yeah, man, this is a family affair. Word to Mary J. Word to Auntie Mary.
Auntie Mary. That's Auntie Mary.
Shout out to Mary J. She's doing the NBA halftime show as well. They just announced the lineup. DJ Khaled he's bringing Mary J.
What?
Go on.
No, who else is there?
He's bringing Mary J. Blige, Lil Wayne, Ludacris, Gunna, Lil Baby, and Migos. They're going to be doing the NBA halftime show.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Yes, sir. Yes,
beautiful.
Sir. So we just want to spread the love and say thank you because we see it all. We appreciate every single one of you. And that's how this stuff grows. You know, the more people you tell about this show, the more it can grow, the better we can make it, the more episodes we can do, the more guests we can do. We had a great guest on yesterday. If you haven't heard that yesterday, Coach Brendan Sir, who's coached the Dream Team, the Bad Boy Pistons, and he gave us a little insight into the mind of Ben Simmons, who he went to coach at LSU to work with one-on-one. So, you know, BJ Armstrong, three-time NBA champion, your boy Moran. We're back for another episode. Right now, we're about to enter the All-Star break, so I thought it's time to have a conversation about the MVP race. I'm going to give you my top three. BJ's going to give you his top three. But before I can do a top three, there are some names that I have to give a shout out to. Okay. Demar Derozan has been playing incredible basketball. Historic, and he would be a leader for MVP if it weren't for how great the other guys have been too. Any other season, I think DeMar would be up there in the top three. I also have to shout out to Jamal Morant, leading the young Grizzlies. The reason why he's not in the top three for me is because the Grizzly squad can still perform without him. You know, we saw Tyus Jones step up massively the other night, and that's not a knock on Jamal Morant, but that's just how these things go. It goes with the narrative. And then speaking of narrative, Devin Booker and Chris Paul, for me, both of them have been having excellent seasons, but because both of them are so great, it takes away from the MVP chances of the others. That leads me to my top three. At number three, I've got Nikola Jokic. At number two, I've got Joel Embiid. And at number one for me right now, the MVP is Giannis Antetokounmpo. BJ, you saw him drop the 50-piece last night. 50-piece, no fries, no sides.
You know I had to give it to you. I gave it to you, Mo. You know I sent that to you.
Yep.
You know, Mo, I have to agree with everything you just said there.
Even the order of the top three, or would you change
even the order? I mean, those guys, Giannis, Jokic, and Embiid, that changes daily. It changes by the quarter.
Yeah.
Okay. If you would have said yesterday before your Celtics went in there, I mean, it was a massacre.
I tried to tell them.
It was a massacre. You know, if you would have said before yesterday, Embiid could have easily been number one.
He was number one until yesterday.
And then Giannis comes in with a 50-piece. Okay. And then now you have to throw him at number one. So I think the race is a very tight race. But you know what I really respect is the recognition of players like DeMar Derozan. Okay, DeMar Derozan, just give him credit, man. I mean, you know what? This guy is playing, you know, exceptional basketball. And the thing I love about DeMar is his game, he appears to be improving at this age.
It's crazy, right? I was talking the other day, I was talking about his playmaking. Because you know when he dropped that 40-point game, everyone's excited about the scoring. But the playmaking and the chances he's creating for his teammates as well. He learned a lot of that in San Antonio, but he looks like a whole new player.
Yeah, the thing I love about how he's playing now is his awareness to time and score. He's just not scoring empty points and putting up stats. He's scoring, and it's with the purpose to win. And I love that. And you know, he's evolved as a player. He's developed, and wherever he learned that, you know, great for him. And the Bulls are benefiting from that. So DeMar DeRozan, we need to give him a shout out. You know, do I think he's playing as well as those three? No, but he needs a shout out. Jamal Morant, listen, that's must-see TV. He's Jamal Morant without question. And I love the fact that you recognize Chris Paul and Devin Booker. And I don't want to take those guys for granted. You know, Devin Booker is the best player on the best team in the league. You know, out of respect to the game, we have to recognize him and what he's doing. He may not be putting up the stats and numbers of those guys, but he's doing something right. He's doing something, and he must be recognized for what he's doing. And Chris Paul, listen, there's nothing I can say. I was talking about Chris Paul the other day, and I you know, and I said this, and then you know, I was halfway joking, but not really. Chris Paul should be coach of the year.
I think Draymond should be up there too.
Chris Paul should be coach of the year. He is just, I mean, when you watch him last night, he's mastered that position. The connection he has with Coach Williams and the team. And the hardest thing that you learn as a point guard is when to pass and when to shoot. And Chris Paul is a genius.
His IQ is on a different level.
He's really mastered the art of running that position. Like when you say this is how you play the point guard position, then Chris Paul's name should be in there because he's really mastered that. And he's playing the game and he doesn't have to score anymore. That's just what I love more than anything. He's gone from being a 20-point scorer to now he's averaging around 14 to 15 a game now. And he's more effective with less points somehow. So I love how he's playing. And I agree with you. And I agree with your three. I agree in the order. And Mo, we didn't even talk about this before we got on, but I agree. I mean, Jokic is, you know, Jokic and Embiid. The thing that makes those two in particular, you know, Giannis is just a different level of a player. I mean, I don't even know how we describe him. But the other two, you know, Jokic loses an all-star caliber guard in Jamal Murray and wins the MVP in his absence. That to me is probably more impressive than anything because normally bigs.
And he's in the conversation without Michael Porter Jr. as well, because we were all talking during the summer, Michael Porter Jr. is going to step up with no Jamal Murray. But guess what? He's injured too. And Jokic is still in this conversation.
Yeah, Jokic is still in the conversation. Embiid is playing with a young guard, Maxey, and he is playing better. So I want to give the big, you know, I love bigs, give those guys credit. And of course, my man, the G unit, I love him. And I love the fact that these guys are competing in there. It's a close race here. And, you know, I was just looking at Giannis's stat line last night. If I can just, the guy was 17 or 21 from the field.
Yep.
I mean,
he can't be stopped. He cannot.
He scores 50 points in 36 minutes. I mean, what he's doing, ladies and gentlemen, is this is not normal. This is not like something that you see. This isn't something that you can teach. Either you have it or you don't. Giannis has it.
I saw something, and you know, someone said to me, when Giannis retires, you think we're going to have him above KD, above Steph? And the conversation is, he has the potential to be greater than both of those guys. And that's with all due respect to those two. He can be in the conversation with LeBron James and potentially, you know, that caliber of players where you talk about some of the best to ever do it. Because this brings me on to the next topic of conversation. The reason why I've got Jokic in the third spot compared to the other two could be candidates for Defensive Player of the Year as well. Yes, so I'm going to give you my top three for Defensive Player of the Year. And you know, I have to start by giving a shout out to the Time Lord, Rob Williams, who has been a revelation for the Boston Celtics. And of course, every year I have to give a shout out to Marcus Smart, my number one perimeter defender. And obviously Drew Holiday is great and all these other guys. But right now, my top three for defensive player of the year. And number three, I've got Mikal Bridges of the Phoenix Suns. They've got the best defense in the league, the best record in the league. He takes on the hardest assignments. He can guard anyone 1 through 4. And number two, I've got Jaren Jackson Jr., who has been cleaning up on the inside for the Memphis Grizzlies. His ability to not only block shots, but alter shots as well. That's an underrated aspect that sometimes doesn't show up in the stat sheet. That's why I think Jokic as well is a good defender. I've not got him in a race for Defensive Player of the Year, but people underestimate just how good he was. Did you see that block when the Nuggets played the Raptors to save the game on OG Anunoby?
Yes.
Big time. We've got to give Jokic his flowers on defense man too. But I've got Bridges, I've got Jaren Jackson Jr., and at number one, this is why he's number one on my MVP ladder too, I've got Giannis Antetokounmpo. Because even without Brook Lopez anchoring that defense, Giannis has been playing more minutes at the 5, but it's the same results. He's still been a menace. No one wants to have him in front of them when they're trying to score the basketball. Who's your top 3 right now, though, BJ, for the Defense Player of the Year award?
In no particular order, because
you got to give an order. This is what the people want. They want the order. You got to. And it's not a bad thing to be the third in the race right now. It's not a knock.
Yeah, the best defensive player right now is Giannis, without question. He's the best defensive player. I think 2 for me is, again, I'm conflicted here because I want to say this before, without shying away from it. Rudy Gobert and Draymond Green, before they missed games for whatever the reason may
that's
have
the
been.
only reason I don't want to put those 2 guys in there.
Yeah, I don't want to penalize guys. Listen, if you COVID or whatever you're doing, like, it is what it is. Rudy Gobert to me is in there, right?
Correct.
He should be in there. So I'm gonna you know what? As I'm saying it, I'm putting Rudy Gobert.
You're putting Rudy still
number 2.
Still. Okay.
Draymond has missed, I think more time than we expected. Right? I don't think we've expected.
No, he was only supposed to be out for
a week, and then suddenly now it's progressing. Now we're at All-Star weekend. He's gonna miss the All-Star game.
I'm worried about that.
Draymond Green may have been. Yeah, Draymond Green was probably the defensive player of the year.
There's no problem. He was 100% locked in. That was it.
So I don't want to, if he returns and he has, the remainder of the season, he will return back in my top 3. Okay, so I wanted to say that, but I'm going to put Rudy back in there because I think he just returned this week.
Okay,
and then the kid Bridges is there. I think the kid Bridges is there. I love what Jaren Jackson is doing. I think he is, he's playing the game at a high level. So I want to say Giannis, Rudy, and Bridges for me right now, and my top 3 defensive player of the year in that order.
I hear it. I respect it. And by the way, going through all of these, we want to hear from you guys at home. Make sure you're tweeting us with your top 3s for the MVP, for the defensive player of the year. And then there's one more conversation that I want to get a top 3 from you for the coach of the year.
Ooh.
Now, there's been some fantastic coaching. Doc Rivers making the 76ers overperform, missing an all-star through the whole season. But I can't have him in my top 3 until I see how he integrates James Harden to this squad. We've seen fantastic coaching of recently from Ime Udoka. We've seen, Taylor Jenkins and these Grizzlies, they've been really doing something special. He deserves some love for that. But for my top 3, and number 3, I've got Monty Williams. Best record in the league. Can't knock him with the Phoenix Suns. But he can't be higher up for me because I think they were in the finals last season. So the expectation was there for them to be this great. The number 2, I've got Billy Donovan, Chicago Bulls, playing fantastic basketball. Again, over exceeding expectations. But for number 1, I've got JB Bickerstaff because the Cleveland Cavaliers, we've spoken about this before, but I'm going to remind you, I didn't expect the Cleveland Cavaliers to be able to work as good as they have been so far this season. And the way that he's been able to make them play has been extraordinary by making all those pieces fit, because we're in a league where it's typically small ball and the Cavs are the one that are changing the needle for the rest of the league. I know the Raptors are trying to do it too, but I'm looking at the Cavs with their twin towers in the front court, and that's really scary. And if that's an indication of how teams are going to be built in the future, then we're going to see a whole different NBA. So I got to give the credits to those guys. Who you got, BJ?
Well, we can't have a list without mentioning because I don't want to take him for granted. I think he will go down as one of the great coaches. Is Coach Spo down in Miami?
Yep.
Every year this guy he just gets it done. He's evolving as a coach. He's continuing to improve. He's coaching this modern athlete, and he does a great job. Also I want to give a shout out to Steve Kerr. I think Steve Kerr has done a really nice job. I think you mentioned Billy Donovan.
Yep.
Bickerstaff down there in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
Great job. All jokes aside, I love Chris Paul this year. I really do. All jokes aside. However, he won't get it, so I don't want to waste my vote. But I think in this order, I think at number 3, Coach Jenkins down there in Memphis.
Yep.
Has done an exceptional job. He really has. He's kind of come out of nowhere. He's come out of a great coaching tree. And I love how his team plays. And they transition from defense to offense as well as anyone in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see, I love it when guys start getting recognized for their defense. Jaren Jackson, to me, that's a direct reflection of the coaching and what they're doing down there in Memphis. Okay. And he's holding those guys accountable. John Morant plays defense. So I love what Coach Jenkins, I think he's 3. 2, Coach Williams, Monty Williams. Monty Williams, and the reason I say he's at 2 and not 1 is because he's coaching with the expectations to win. That's a very difficult thing. And he's coaching. They got to the finals last year. He comes back this year and they're better. They're better.
Mm-hmm.
That's a testament to him and his staff. Okay. And this isn't a team where we're saying it's like Memphis. Well, we thought they would be okay, but there's no expectations. Cleveland, we're like, oh, wow, they're better than we thought.
Yeah.
The Bulls, Billy Donovan, like, wow, I didn't see this one coming. And you got to give those guys credit.
Reason I've got the Cavs over the Bulls right now is because the Bulls, Zach LaVine's been an NBA All-Star. DeMar DeRozan, we've seen the caliber of play. Whereas the Cavs, they've turned Jarrett Allen into an all-star. Back when he was in Brooklyn, no one was projecting him to be an all-star.
I agree.
They've turned Darius Garland into an all-star. They're going to turn Evan Mobley into an all-star. So that's why I've got the Cavs up there.
I can't argue that. And I respect that. But Monty, to me, is coaching under the pressure of expectations. That's the most difficult thing to do, and I respect that. And number 1 is Doc Rivers. And
okay.
Number 1 is Doc Rivers. This is a dysfunctional league. Okay. This is a dysfunctional league played by dysfunctional players, coached by dysfunctional people. Okay. I can't think of a more dysfunctional situation than the Philadelphia 76ers right now. And I ask myself all the time, how many coaches could coach under this level of scrutiny and adversity and still be 1 or 2 games out of first place? You lose a 25-year-old star player who hasn't played all season. You piecemeal this thing together. And when I look at the standings, they were like a game out of first place last night until they lose to your Celtics. But they are right there. The Celtics, the 76ers are like right there.
Yep.
And then I'm going to ask Doc Rivers to make a trade where I'm going to lose. He's going to lose 2 starters. He's going to lose Seth. He's going to lose Ben. He's going to lose a rotational player.
I wouldn't class Ben as a starter, given that he started 0 games.
How many people can lose their first or second best player, however you want to put it, and then still do this? You're in Philly. You're not like in some small market where no one's paying attention. They've been dealing with this since their exit last year.
I will say this, though. I think, you could make a case that Ben Simmons deciding not to play almost made Doc's job easier because he can play a more traditional lineup. Whereas trying to fit Ben Simmons with Joel Embiid, that's a task that I don't know any coaches that would be able to do that. So
that's fine. But I don't know any coaches who would tell me they wouldn't want to coach Ben Simmons. If you said, If you said, "Hey, you can coach Ben, you can get Ben Simmons," they'd go like, "Nah, he's not a traditional point guard." I don't think I'm 30 for 30 on that one.
Okay, but that's assuming they don't have the most dominant 5-man in the league occupying the paint, because that's what's allowed Joel Embiid. He's not having to stand on the perimeter anymore. He's allowed to be on the block and go to work without having to worry about guys that can't shoot needing to also operate in the paint.
Okay. When that was all said and done, they were the number 1 team last year.
Credit to him.
Okay. When all of that said is done, nothing is perfect. When all of that got done, they were the number 1 seed a year ago. As your generation said, that's big facts, Mo.
Hey, I can't argue with it. But I'm saying I think that was more impressive, getting those 2 guys together to get to the number 1 seed.
Okay, they the number 1 seed together. They're a game out of being the number 1 seed minus him.
Yeah, they're 2.5 games back now.
And 2.5
they've
games
got James
back.
Harden coming in. So
and now Doc Rivers has to shift again mid-season. We're a little past the halfway point, and incorporate a 25 or 30 point score into this group.
That's gonna be tough.
And then we're saying, oh, they can win the championship. So the level of expectations of meeting that of your fan base, the level of hope and all of the things and the pressure we're putting on him, and we're like, oh yeah, we're getting James Harden. Oh man, we're better now. And Doc Rivers and company, they got to figure all of this out and incorporate all of these people and get him in shape and da. To me, this has been one of his most masterful coaching jobs since he's been a head coach. And he's been doing this at a very high level for a very long time.
Yep. And
this is very difficult. And if he doesn't win it, you know you're going to be blaming somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, okay.
I think he's got the experience, integrating those pieces together in Boston in that single season turnaround. He's got the experience, even though it didn't work out with the Clippers and hasn't worked out with the Sixers so far. I think he has got the ability to do it out of all the coaches in the NBA. We got to talk about the most improved player race. Because there's so many players that have taken a leap this season. We could look at Jamal Morant stepping up and being the superstar leader that he is now. But I think if you had watched the playing games and how Memphis ended last season, that's kind of a natural progression. I think Miles Bridges has done a great job of stepping up this season, although he has slowed down slightly from how he started. So my top 3 of the most improved players right now for me, and this is completely subjective. Number 3, I've got Desmond Bane, coming out of nowhere to really shoot lights out for the Grizzlies, a huge part of their offense. Number 2, I've got DeJounte Murray, who's doing amazing things. And I think not enough people watch the San Antonio Spurs and what they're doing. But for me right now, the most improved player is Anthony Simons, who's come along and is showing that he's a star in that Portland backcourt, especially with Damian Lillard sidelined. I've got Anthony Simons right up there as one of the most improved players this season. Who you seen so far, B, that you're looking at as a most improved player?
It's interesting with Anthony Simons, and I like to refer to him as Anthony Simon Says. That's interesting. It's interesting. I think without question, Desmond Bane belongs on this list.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to put him at number 2.
Who you got number 3 then?
I'm going to say Miles Bridges.
Okay.
I'm going to say Miles Bridges. Even though he's taken a little, I'm going to say Miles Bridges, but number 1 for me is still Tyler Hero.
Tyler Hero. Okay.
Tyler Hero, yeah. I like how he has progressed. And to me, he's a starter now, even though he comes off the bench. He's improved, and that's very difficult to do. One of the guys I have admired from afar, and I know him. We've become really good friends over the years. Is Jamal Crawford.
Yes,
Jamal Crawford to me has always been a starter, even though he was off the bench, and that's to me is an art. That's an art. Yeah, it's an art learning how to play. How Tyler Hero has learned
with Hero. Remember when he was going crazy in the bubble? Eastern Conference Finals, a couple games to the NBA Finals, he was balling out, and everyone would like, "Oh, how good can this guy be?" What I used to say was, for me, he can be like J.R. Smith, a very similar player to the Jamal Crawford comparison you made, because J.R. Smith, bucket, even though now the kids know him for the memes and the jokes and all of that, but J.R. Smith was the legitimate scorer of the basketball. He could be a star. He could be a sixth man coming off the bench. So I think you're spot on with the Jamal Crawford comparison in terms of having starting ability. But I think in some ways, coming off the bench is even harder because you don't get time to settle into the game. You have to check in and produce immediately.
That's why I want, Desmond Bain is a starter. You know what I mean? Miles Bridges is a starter. Dejounte Murray now. Dejounte
Murray.
Dejounte Murray now is a starter all-star. This kid, Tyler Hero, to me, that's an art. Like, you have to really have a different mindset to do that and do it well at the level he's doing it. So when you say improve, okay, we can see the stats and we can compare what, he averaged 9 points last year, he averaged 17, but he's had to change his mental preparation. He had to change the players he's playing against coming off the bench. He has to play how he plays as a starter. When he's carrying the second unit, he's probably the primary guy. When he gets to the first unit, now he's maybe the third option behind Bam and Jimmy Butler. So watching him play as a sixth man, to me, especially this year, I've been very impressed with him because mentally, that's not easy.
Yeah.
Most guys want to start. So I really respect what Tyler Hero is doing. And by the way, Mo, they are the number 1 seed currently in the East. So they're doing something right there. And I always talk about talent and I always talk about depth. And I don't want that to go unnoticed. Tyler Hero is a big part of what they're doing. He makes big shots, big plays, and now we've come to expect that from him. But I just want him to know that me in particular, I appreciate him, and I hopefully more people will appreciate what he's doing because that's not easy what he's doing. I as a player, I've done both, and coming off the bench is a very difficult thing. Whoa. And I give him credit. He's doing it as well as anyone I've seen, over the last 15 or 20 years. And when I was talking, I was thinking, only one I've seen do it at this level, and he did it for years, was Jamal Crawford. I mean, Jamal Crawford really mastered the art of coming off the bench. And he was a bucket. He was, what a luxury to have a player like a Jamal Murray. What a luxury for Coach Spo to have Tyler Hero when things aren't going well for your starter.
Instant offense. But, speaking of players that have to adjust to new situations, the Rookie of the Year race, and I think it's a 5-horse race right now. And okay. I think the order changes so often. You, of course, have Kay Cunningham, the number 1 pick, who started off a little bit injured, but he's really shown that he's a big-time player of late. Then, of course, you've got Scotty Barnes, who's been fantastic. He started off fantastic in Toronto. He's kind of come down back to earth a little bit. Maybe it's that rookie ball, whatever it might be. I still think he's a fantastic player, but I don't think he is as good as he's been, or as consistent, should I say, as he started the season. Then we also have to show some love to Franz Wagner of the Orlando Magic, who's been doing fantastic. I think he surpassed all expectations. And then Josh Giddey going into Madison Square Garden with a triple dub.
Giddey.
If he gets onto a good team, that kid's going to be a problem. And then, of course, number 1 for me, Evan Mobley on both sides of the ball. Defensively, I've mentioned this before, they run a zone defense where he's guarding on the perimeter at the point of attack. I've never seen a 7-foot player do that. Defensively, I've seen him make he made a game-winning interception, block, steal, whatever you want to call it, the other day. Offensively, he's really developing. I still think he has some ways to go in terms of the offensive consistency, especially that jump shot. I'd love to see him try and take more bank shots and try and bring back some Tim Duncan vibes. I think that could help him because a lot of his jump shots actually fall short off the front of the rim. I don't know what that's down to, but I think that's an adjustment he could make. But there's 5 guys there. Trying to put them into an order is tough. BJ, do you have an order for those 5 guys, a top 3 that you can make? Because for me right now, I'm struggling to make a top 3 because it changes every week.
Well, I think, I think there's 3 categories here, right? Okay. I think at the bottom of the category, would be Wagner and like Suggs. I think
I don't think Suggs is in the conversation for me.
For me, he's in the conversation. Okay, I think he's in the conversation. So I think Wagner and Suggs are at the here, and I think Wagner needs to be recognized for what he's done. Then I think there are two players are above in the same. You have Giddey and you have Cade.
Yeah,
I think they are in the second tier, and then I think in this particular order at the moment, Mobley 1 and Scotty Barnes 2.
Yeah,
I think it's a two-man race now. I think those two have separated themselves, and the reason I say they separate themselves is because they are rookies, which is that comes with its own set of problems. But both of them are making significant contributions to winning basketball.
Yep.
And I think Scotty Barnes, he started out, like gangbusters. He came out and he started great. And Mobley has just walked everybody down.
Yeah.
To suddenly now you're saying this kid is for real. So I think Mobley and Scotty are in their own category. I think Cade and Giddey, listen, both of them are in, let's say, struggling franchises, but they're showing promise. Giddey goes in, puts in a triple-double in New York. Cade puts in triple-double. I mean, both of those guys, you are saying, these guys could be really good players, okay? But clearly, they're getting a chance to get extended minutes because of the situation they're currently in. But over time, you're saying, and then I think the kid Wagner, again, is on a team that's trying to figure it out. I think he's shown promise. I mean, he's a very competitive kid. He's a little confrontational, which I like. Stands up for himself, and I like the kid Suggs. I like Suggs. I think he's shown promise. He was injured, so forth. But I think Mobley is 1. I think Scotty is 2, and it could change.
Yep.
But I think those guys are really running neck and neck for Rookie of the Year this year.
BJ, do you know what will not change as this season progresses?
That what will not change is that I know this. We will be here every day.
You read my mind.
People,
that's
giving
facts.
The people what they want.
That's facts. We're going to be here every morning, Monday to Friday. Oh, excuse me. I'm losing my voice.
Oh,
I need to have a drink. We're here Monday to Friday. We're here for you. Any questions you want answered, keep an eye out for that tweet because your questions have been dope. We're going to be answering them tomorrow.
Can we do that this week? When are we doing that, Mo?
We could do it tomorrow. We could hit them with it tomorrow. We're going to see.
Okay.
We're going to see. I was going to give them a little all-star preview, but we can throw some questions in there too. In fact, we could make the all-star preview questions about the all-star game. How about that? Let's do that.
Okay.
And until next time, my people, thank you again for showing so much love. But you know what you got to do? Get buckets.